Cool.
Yes, yes. Just a minute. Streaming is starting. Yeah,
Can start.
yeah. We are good to go.
Very good morning, everyone. Welcome to the fifth edition of Samurai Awards Conference and Awards. Uh, to take a cue, it's like we are starting a test match, 5 day, and we are happy to invite the Kohli of Indian manufacturing, Dr. Sachin Sabnis. We are honored to have an industry visionary with us to deliver the keynote address on a crucial topic, India's Manufacturing Vision 2030, leveraging technology and talent for global leadership. Our keynote speaker, Dr. Sachin Sabnis, is the Managing Director of Belgaum Ferrocast India Pvt Ltd, a pioneering company known for its commitment to innovation and precision in casting solution. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Sachin Sabnis. Thank you, Dr. Sachin, to accept our invitation and to give the keynote speech. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
Thank you.
Well, first of all, I'd like to congratulate Dinesh for the inaugural, for calling me to give the keynote address at the inaugural session of Samurai Awards 2024. And the topic today is the growth of Indian economy or the projections by 2030. As we all know, India is at an inflection point. We all have been seeing how the economy has been growing. And right now, we are, say, at around 3.7 trillion and maybe the fifth biggest economy. But in a couple of years, or at least by the end of next year, it is projected that we'll be overtaking Japan as well as Germany to be the third largest economy. But the dream to be a big manufacturing hub by 2030 is one of the basic key points for this success, to be a big economy as well as to see that the last person is benefited out of this economy by increasing our per capita income. So as we know, manufacturing is emerging as an integral part of our country's economic growth. And thanks to performances that we are seeing in automotive, engineering, chemical, pharmaceutical, consumer durables, the Indian manufacturing industry has generated close to 16 to 17% of India's GDP pre-pandemic and also post-pandemic. But 16 to 17% is not what will drive it. As we know, most of the developed economies have close to 25% of their GDP coming out of manufacturing. So India by 2030 is also targeting that we achieve close to 25% of our GDP from manufacturing. Machine tool industry which is literally the nuts and bolts of manufacturing industry in India. Today, the stimulated innovation with digital transformation is a key aspect to gain the edge in a very highly competitive market. Technology has today encouraged creativity with digital transformation from being a critical element in gaining an advantage in this increasingly competitive industry. The Indian manufacturing sector is steadily moving towards more automated and process-driven manufacturing, which is projected to improve the efficiency and enhance the productivity for our manufacturers. The Indian manufacturing sector reached a 16-year high in March, driven by strong increases in output, new orders, and job creations across various goods sectors. India has a capacity to export goods worth at least $1 trillion by 2030, on its way to becoming a major global manufacturing hub. As I said, with 17% of nation's GDP and with over 27.3 million workers, the manufacturing sector plays a significant role in Indian economy. Through implementation of various programs and policies, the Indian government hopes to achieve the 25% of manufacturing contribution in India's GDP. India is now has a physical and a digital infrastructure in place to raise the share of manufacturing sector in the economy and make a realistic bid to be an important player in the global supply chain. The global competitive manufacturing sector is India's greatest potential to drive the economic growth and the job creation in this decade. Due to the factors like power growth, long-term employment prospects, skill routes for millions of people, India has significant potential to engage in the international market. Several factors contribute to this potential. First of all, the value chains are well positioned to benefit India's advantage in terms of raw material, industrial expertise, and entrepreneurship that exist at a very lower level of our pyramid. Secondly, they can take advantage of four market opportunities. One is the expanding exports that we are looking at. As I said, $1 trillion export is something manufacturing sector is looking at. Localizing the imports, internal demand. We have a huge demand with 1.4 billion people. We have a huge even internal demand to fuel this manufacturing movement and contract manufacturing. With digital transformation being the critical component in achieving an advantage in this fiercely competitive industry, technology has today sparked creativity. Indian manufacturing is slowly moving towards more automated and process-driven manufacturing, which is expected to increase the efficiency and boost the production of manufacturing industry. India is gradually progressing on the road to industry IoT 4.0 through Government of India initiatives like National Manufacturing Policy, which aims to increase the share of manufacturing in GDP by 2025, and Production Linked Incentive Scheme for Manufacturing, which was launched in 2022 to develop the core manufacturing sector at par with the global manufacturing standards required. The FDI in India's manufacturing sector has increased and has reached close to $165 billion, a 69% increase over the past decade, driven by the PLI scheme that the government has promoted. In last 5 years itself, the FDIs have amounted to more than 383 billion. India is planning to offer incentives up to 18,000 crores to spur local manufacturing in new sectors like chemical manufacturing, ship containers, input for vaccines, etc. India's mobile manufacturing is another manufacturing success story out here, and it anticipates to create more than 250,000 direct or indirect jobs within next 12 to 16 months, driven by government incentives and increased global demands. Major players we have seen, Apple this year, they just projected that they have exported more than $6 billion worth of iPhones from here, and they are expanding their workforce to meet the growing requirement. Manufacturing exports, as we know, have hit their highest ever last year, which was close to $447 billion, and which was surpassing what we had achieved in maybe 23, which was 422. But by 2030, the target is again about $1 trillion. And I'm very much sure that India will be able to achieve that. India's e-commerce exports are projected to grow from 1 billion to close to 400 billion annually by 2030, aiding in this US $2 trillion, that total exports that India projects for 2030, out of which 1 trillion would be coming out of manufacturing itself. India's smartphone exports have been more than $15 billion, with US as a top destination, and it reflects the government scheme of production linked incentive scheme in boosting this sector. As per the survey conducted by Reserve Bank of India, capacity utilization in Indian manufacturing sector stood at 76.8% in the third quarter of FY24, indicating that there is been a significant recovery in the sector post-pandemic. And we all know that India's GDP has been robust as compared to other countries, and we are projected to be somewhere at 8.4% even during this third quarter, that is October to December of 2024. The GDP growth basically is driven by manufacturing as well as construction sector, with both these sectors growing annually at a rate of more than 11% and construction growing at 9.5%. India's exports during April-June period of 24-25 is expected to be close to $110 billion, reflecting a very positive growth over the period last year. The manufacturing sector in India has a potential to reach this $1 trillion economy. India has a potential to become a global manufacturing hub by 2030, and it can add more than 500 billion US dollar to the global economy. But as we have seen, India has been trying its own bit in improving on certain things which are going to drive this. One of that is maybe the technology that we all are speaking about. Internet, I just mentioned earlier, IoT, embracing advanced technologies like Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, robotics, data analytics to streamline processes, enhance precision, enable predictive maintenance. This shift aims at increasing the efficiency and reducing our manufacturing cost. Digitalization is another thing, building smart factories with integrated digital systems to improve the coordination, traceability, and resource management. Automation, focusing on automated manufacturing plant. As we know, most of our Indian manufacturing plants have been very less productive as compared to the global standards, resulting in higher cost and the product cost being high and being uncompetitive in international market. So focusing on automated manufacturing systems to handle repetitive tasks, improve productivity, reduce human errors will help in industries like electronics, automotive, and pharmaceutical. One thing where India has been lacking over the years is innovation and research. Indian industry needs to invest a huge amount into research and development, and we are seeing a lot of companies allocating huge amount of money towards that, and increasing investment in R&D would drive the innovation in high growth sectors like electronics, EV vehicles we are seeing, renewable energy, as well as biotechnology. Startup ecosystem, India is also known as one of the startup capitals of the world, and startup ecosystem has helped in this to see that we encourage new ideas, innovations, solutions, and partnerships basically. The most important another aspect out here is the skilling, the workforce, the skilled workforce development, the skill enhancement programs, upskilling the workforce with technical skills in robotics, automation, data analytics, and digital manufacturing. Government has a lot of initiatives like Skill India aim to create a robust pipeline of talent to meet the demands of evolving manufacturing landscape. Educational reforms. Basically, this is one very important point I would like to stress out here, because our education system has for long not been aligned with the requirement of the industry. So huge education reforms are being incorporated, and I see many of the technical education institutes upgrading their uh, curriculum to see that the students are at par with the requirement, as well as a lot of student internships, and bringing them at stage to the global requirement would be very helpful in achieving these goals that we have. Uh, and I'm just mentioning a few aspects that are coming to my mind. Sustainable development goals are also very important in a global scenario, like green manufacturing processes, where environment friendly processes, waste reductions, energy efficient system. We are seeing a lot of energy efficient manufacturing in many a company, where most of their power requirement has been fueled by solar and wind, leading to a very green manufacturing practices. Circular economy is another big thing where we can use or reuse the materials and recycling materials so as to we minimize the waste and environmental impact of this waste. Infrastructure, as we have seen in last 10 to 15 years, there has been a huge impetus by the government on infrastructure, and this has led to faster logistics. The Prime Minister Logistic Initiative in 2022 was one big move towards connecting the ports as well as the manufacturing hubs, creating very dedicated manufacturing hubs where smart cities with advanced manufacturing and logistics connectivity. So these are part of Make in India or Atmanirbhar Bharat. And lastly, but not least, global market access and export growth. As India is at 3.7 trillion, and we see that the global economy is more than 117 trillion. So there is a huge opportunity for Indian manufacturer to tap into this. So basically, if we are able to establish some trade partnerships with different nations, we can always facilitate the export of Indian goods. At the same time, some very good quality standards need to be established in manufacturing sector so that the Indian products that are going to get exported are going to find a huge potential out here. So, taking all this into consideration and what is happening since last 4 or 5 years, as I said, India is at an inflection point where everything may change in a very, very short period of time. And by 2030, we are already seeing a lot of developments happening. We can see that Indian defense exports have soared by more than 78% and are reaching close to a billion. They are right now pegged at around 800 million US dollars. And this actually growth reflects our nation's push at self-reliance in defense manufacturing. We are seeing a lot of companies like Apple, Google, setting up their manufacturing plants for mobile phones, and in Bangalore, in Chennai, or Foxconn or Dixon Technologies. These people are out here, and India has more than $15 billion of mobile exports right now. We are seeing Indian cars getting exported to the world market. We are seeing Maruti Suzuki manufacturing one particular model for the whole of the world, and the same car getting launched even in Japan was a pride for India, because an Indian car getting driven on a Japanese roads is always something of a pride for our nation. So we are seeing a huge investment in automobile, chemical, drug and pharmaceutical, and many of these sectors, and which I feel would surely drive the huge jump that we are looking in the manufacturing industry. One of the schemes that has been very, very successful from the government is the PLI scheme, that is the production linked incentive scheme. And production linked incentive scheme initially started with a few sectors, and now it has been extended to textile as well as chemicals. Basically, it was done for some core sectors like semiconductors and all. And semiconductors, we have seen huge improvement in the semiconductor manufacturing in India, as well as exports from India. And now government has extended these schemes to few other manufacturing verticals. And I'm very much sure that it's going to help us increase our production or increase our stake in the global economy by big time. Also, for some of the liquid displays that we are doing, we know Samsung has been manufacturing one of the biggest displays. The India is now one of the biggest display manufacturing hub in the world. Like as I was referring to the PLI scheme, and some of the notable things is more than $830 million were invested into semiconductor and display manufacturing, which I was just now mentioning. So there is a huge impetus from the government as well as in EV. Basically, EV is another electric vehicles is another initiative where the government is promoting, so that there is a PLI scheme. So a lot of PLI activities are happening, from skill development and entrepreneurship. Rashtriya Udyamita Vikas Pariyojana under skill development, which is giving a lot of entrepreneurship training program, even theoretical, practical components, and focusing a lot on even employment of women, basically, because India has a very poor record when it comes to women employment. and we need to see that the women employment goes up. As I said, startups is another very important part of the whole ecosystem, and we can see that startups have been given a lot of incentives by the government so that they can cover up for their initial losses, because it is more about the innovation and new uh, ideas that need to come forward, and startups need to be supported on this. At the same time, MSMEs, because MSME play a very, very important part in this manufacturing setup, and especially in MSMEs, the micro and small. So they need to be handheld, because for them to take them to the next level, they need a lot of support as well when it comes to the capital requirement, marketing, as well as compliance related issues need to be addressed with them, so that they can have their own part in what $1 trillion contribution from manufacturing that we are expecting, $1 trillion of exports that the manufacturing is looking at, and 25% of GDP. So if we say that we are going to be an $5 trillion economy, more than 1.25 trillion of that contribution needs to come from manufacturing. So defense sector is another very, very successful sector that we have seen over the years, and government incentivizing this sector, investing hugely into this sector, is seeing the results in Make in India, Atmanirbhar Bharat, and it has been a proud moment for us all. Every day we see that something new is being developed in India and been launched. At the same time, electronic sector, government is investing hugely into electronic sector to support this sector, and initiatives like Make in India, Digital India, Startup India has given a huge thrust to this electronic sector, as well as government also schemes like modified special incentive scheme for electronics, and electronic development fund has helped the electronic sector, and the allocations we have seen, if we just go through a little bit of budget allocation, what we saw last year, and we can see the huge investments in defense, electronics, IT hardware, as well as PLI in semiconductor, as I said, is said to be at close to, government has allocated close to 760 billion rupees, that is around 10 billion US dollars, to be given out as a PLI for people making semiconductors in India. So that gives a huge boost to this sector, and it has been the purview of PLI scheme has been increased now, with a lot of other manufacturing verticals getting included in it, like as I said earlier, textile, pharmaceuticals. Also, there has been a talk about including a lot of manufacturing related to steel, of some special steel manufacturing. And logistic wise, we are doing really great. As I said, 2022, Prime Minister launched the National Logistic Policy, because logistic plays a very, very important part in this whole scheme of things of looking at India as one of the big manufacturing hub by 2030. Innovation, we know that innovation, a lot of schemes are there to promote innovation, not only at the industry but also at the college level or the education level. So looking at everything, I'm very, very optimistic about the what we have, or what the government has really planned for in 2030, that we need to be more than a $5 trillion economy, and more than 25% of our manufacturing contributing towards this $5 trillion economy. So India, being an 1.4 billion populated nation with contribution of only say 3.7 trillion right now in a total global economy of 117 trillion, that itself is an advantage for India to grow, because with such a huge population, 3.7 trillion economy doesn't fit well. So we need to grow big. And as I would say, in conclusion, India is a very, very attractive hub for foreign investment in manufacturing sector, and we have seen that in mobile or luxury or automobile brands. And with manufacturing sector in India with the potential to reach more than $1 trillion by in exports by say 2030. And we have seen a lot of with implementation of GST and other things. It has been the whole thing has been consolidated in a very nice way. So it's more organized now. So basically, the government of India schemes for promotions like Samarth Udyog Bharat 4.0, as I mentioned, IoT 4.0, as well as some of the scheme for sustainable development, will surely see that we achieve the required global status as a world's one of the biggest manufacturing global hubs, because we need to know that once upon a time in 16th century or 15th century, we contributed more than 30% to the global GDP. But over the years, after 300, 400 years of rule, somehow right now our contribution is not more than 2.5, 3% to the $117 trillion economy that I speak of. So there is a huge potential out here. And in today's world, the world is flat. It's not round. As Thomas Friedman said during in his book, World is Flat. And the book he wrote is when he came to Bangalore and was able to speak to some of the promoters of Infosys. And I think it was Nandan Nilekani who told him that the world is not round, the world is flat now. With digitalization, with skilling, all the opportunities available to the manufacturing or to the manufacturers in India, I don't see why they won't be able to compete globally, and they won't be able to export $1 trillion, and they would not be part of that 25% contribution to the GDP, because it is not only the contribution. Manufacturing creates huge jobs, and we have seen over the last years, we are adding 13, 14 lakh jobs per annum on a continuous year on year basis. And manufacturing is one activity which would surely see that even the per capita income of our common citizen goes up, because if the manufacturing hits 25% of GDP, I'm very sure India would surely be a developed nation in a true sense. So I think that's what I had to say, Dinesh ji, out here. So thank you very much once again for giving me this opportunity to give a keynote address at start of your Samurai Awards. And I wish you all the best and all the success for your coming sessions and coming a week full of activity at Meshmix, India, and with Samurai Awards. So thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Sachin, for sharing a lot of unmissable and actionable insight. A lot of key takeaways for me and the listeners who are listening. And if anybody has a follow-up question, we will take it. Before we take some of the audience question, I know time is short, Sachin ji.
Yeah.
One thing, because you stressed a lot on technology, so and India, like in Hindi we say Bharat gaon mein basta hai. Same thing for business. MSME is the the backbone and strength of the country. So according to you, how is affordability is playing in adoption in technology for MSME? How affordable, because technology is very expensive. So how do you see affordability part for adoption in for MSME?
No, whenever the technologies, majorly when we are seeing that the technologies are imported, they are expensive. But if we are able to convert it locally, we are able to make or use the schemes like Atmanirbhar and all. I have seen that the technologies become affordable over the time. When they are presented initially, they are usually expensive. But then we need to make or use technologies as needed by us. We cannot adopt the technologies that are available globally as they are, because Indian
Okay.
requirement will be different. We
Right.
have to balance between people and adopting the
Mhm.
technology, because these two things are majorly needed for India. We cannot
Okay.
go on for a full-fledged technology approach also, because
Okay.
we have a population of 1.4 billion, so we need to give them employment too.
Right. And since before we take audience question, A lot of people say, AI automation, these will take jobs. And specifically, a lot of now chat GPT and new technologies are coming. How do you see the future of workplace in manufacturing? How do you see the jobs and all in the coming years?
No, surely AI or generative artificial intelligence is going to have its own role in the whole gamut of things, because some of the things which can be done by AI, I personally have a thought like surely AI should be used, but I always say AI doesn't have emotions. So AI
Correct.
is very mechanical, and AI is something, it is picking up something from what is being fed by humans itself. AI doesn't
Correct.
have its own creativity. So AI will
Okay.
be implementing, but that should make your job or make your resultant or what result you are looking at more productive than what you were earlier. So the other day, just a couple of days back, I was speaking to someone and I said like rather than going in directly for AI, don't lose your creativity. You create something first and then go and look at say chat GPT for if you want some help from there.
Correct.
So if that way, because a lot of the young kids basically would like to jump into chat GPT or AI and lose their creativity. I don't want that. Basically, it should be the
Okay.
other way around. As humans, we need to have creativity, and AI is going to have its impact. But there are many sectors where there are too many iterations or there are too many interventions needed where I don't see that AI would be able to do those jobs as of now.
Okay. And one question I want to touch upon once again, we had discussed this in our last interaction in Belgaum at your factory. It's startup, a manufacturing startup, because like I said, it's a capital we need a lot of capital, whether it's technology, machines, and all. What should these new startups can think of when want to do something in manufacturing, whether it's aerospace, automotive? What are the key things they should do to make their company successful?
No, as you rightly said, the initial investment, especially in manufacturing startups, is very huge. So the capital requirement or the cost of capital is something that even government needs to seriously look at or to incentivize it to help these companies get into manufacturing or anybody wants to get into. That is why we see most of the startups are more on the digital side of the
Yes.
platform, and they are
Correct.
not much of the startups in the manufacturing side, because on a digital side you don't need that kind of an investment. It is more of an idea rather than investment. So on a from government side they need to do that, but as young people, if they want to get into defense or something, there is a huge potential. The potential is huge. They need to really collaborate, or they need to the MSME, the word would be collaboration. I always feel if you have to be sustain yourself, or if you have to sustain yourself in the global economy, collaboration is the way forward to even the startups, especially in defense, because there are some big players in defense, and a lot of technology is not available. For a country like India, we see that many a times technologies are not available. But you can see how wonderfully something like a startup like SpaceX can do in US. Some of the means one of the examples, and I'm really amazed, and I was reading it somewhere, like you can see that the Indian astronaut Sunita Williams, she went to the International Space Station, and she went on a basically the Airbus had built the spacecraft to take her there, but then they developed some technical hitch and they were not able to get her back. Now you see a company like Airbus or Boeing, all these people, they have decades of experience in aviation. But when you look at a young company like SpaceX and what they are doing and what we see, that's really amazing. This is what the startups can do. It is really amazing because startups don't have that kind of a bureaucratic hold that this old company, any company that gets a little bit old, gets into more of bureaucracy, basically a lot of permissions, and that kills the innovation spirit, or that kills that motivation amongst the young people that they are looking at. So young people in defense, India needs it, and I'm very sure there is also a company down south in Chennai who is working on this launching of satellites and all. And I'm very sure in next 5 to 6 years, India would surely see a private enterprise who would be at the same level as SpaceX, or at least follow them in some of the initiatives they are doing.
So my takeaway is break boundaries through startup. As Sachin ji before, I know time is short, so we will take some of the audience question. Mr. Rahul
Sure.
asked why PLI scheme is not extended to MSME.
No, we are trying. Actually, MSME is a huge. The problem with MSME is first thing is not really organized the way it has to be. And government came with PLI scheme only to promote certain core sectors, like say semiconductors or EVs. These were the initial things. Now they have extended it to few others, like maybe the textile or even to steel manufacturing, but very specialized steel manufacturing plants and all. But we, as from Lagudyog Bharati, we have been consistently pursuing with government that some kind of incentives need to be given to MSMEs to be competitive in the global market, because the global market and the cost market is very, very tight. And post pandemic, China has been, after we saw that China plus one policy that came with most of the buyers from Europe and US. The sad part was India was not able to capitalize on it the way it should have. And most of these orders moved to Far East, countries like Vietnam, Indonesia, Thailand. They were able to do or
Correct.
pick up the chunk of this manufacturing. But
Correct.
post pandemic, China has been very, very aggressive to regain its spot in manufacturing. So government of India needs to seriously, I totally agree with the gentleman who has asked this question, need to come out with some kind of a incentive for MSMEs, I feel. PLI would be, because PLI is for very, very specific sectors. So MSMEs, since most of them do some contract manufacturing or job working for someone, it becomes very difficult for them.
And the second question, India is having a huge population. How manufacturing boost to labor intensive industry?
Can you come back? Can you come back?
Somebody has asked, India is having a huge population. How
Yeah.
manufacturing can boost this labor, some of the labor intensive industries?
Absolutely. See, manufacturing is, that's what I said in my talk, like manufacturing is something that India needs, because not whole of India is highly educated. We need to understand
Yes,
India, as you said rightly, India गाँव में बसता है. So they are
yes,
mostly in tier two, tier three cities. Manufacturing
correct,
is something they
correct,
usually manufacturing don't come to the tier one cities. Most of the manufacturing plants, or as well as the entrepreneurship, as well as the MSMEs, we see majority of it being focused in tier 2 and tier 3 cities. So that
correct,
creates employment for the people out there. They can stay in their own cities, they can stay in their own villages and still go out and work out there. And
okay,
manufacturing, always I have said, I can say this with a very authority, that MSMEs, I always say that per square feet, per lakh invested in MSME generates more number of jobs than
okay,
any other industry. So
okay,
basically, that is the way to look forward, because
okay,
manufacturing can generate huge job opportunities to people.
okay. And lastly, Sachinji, before we conclude, you will be hosting IMS 2025. So
Yeah.
can you let our audience know about the show, what they can expect, something about the show, what one can expect, and how the show is different from the last edition.
Dinesh, your voice is breaking, so I was not able to
Okay,
listen to your
okay.
question
So,
fully. Yeah.
okay,
Can you just repeat the
okay.
question? You
Yes.
asked something
So
about
I was
IMS, right?
asking before we conclude, Sachinji. Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
Indian manufacturing show, basically 2025, which will be held in next year, that is 2025. Basically, we focus on aviation, robotics, and also the manufacturing, robotics, aviation, EVs, and manufacturing. Lagudyog Bharati Karnataka basically has been holding Indian manufacturing show for more than last six editions have been done, and a very highly successful show where it is more of a B2B exhibition to showcase your products, especially in manufacturing. If you belong to some of these manufacturing sectors that I just mentioned, and it's a 3-day event at BIEC in Bangalore, and it gives huge opportunity not only to showcase your products to the domestic buyers, but also to international buyers who come and visit this exhibition of ours. And it has been highly successful with thousands of visitors and more than 500, 600 participants who come and display their products. So basically, it is an effort from Laghu Udyog Bharati to give a platform to the manufacturers to showcase their products and to help a little bit understand this ecosystem of aviation defense, robotics, EV. So this is an effort from us to help these small manufacturers, basically. That's what we do at Indian Manufacturing Show.
Thank you, Sachin ji. Thank you for your time. And looking forward to, I'm eager to meet you at Samurai Awards physical event, which is happening in
Surely.
15th in Goa. Thank
Yeah,
you again,
sure.
and sir, looking forward to see you soon, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.